Steve, do you think that UEFA should take Man United or Tottenham's Champions League place away next season?
Look, it's been 29 minutes. An impatient Pratt probably would have come in by now. Hold that, Goldbridge. No, look, Arsene Wenger, big up, man. Take a bow. 7 years you were in the Premier League. You're still rattling people, even though you're out of it. This is totally and utterly rattled. He knows what he's doing. I think Richard Keys and Andy Gray are very clever as well with how they've just planted that message for him. Shall we just shit on some Man United and Spurs fan, Arsene? I'll give you this nice little question for you to do so. Giving him a way in which they knew how he was going to answer it. Look, I think we're kind of missing it a bit here, and I understand why Man United and Spurs fans will get a little bit peeved. I think the question needs to be, should this rule remain? And I think what we're doing is we're looking past and going, well, it was all right 5 years ago. It was all right 10 years ago. Yeah, to be fair, I think Europe is trash, and I've said that for a while. I think, if I'm honest, the last 4 that are in the Champions League, the games that we're seeing have been quite good quality, to be honest. So perhaps you can say that it's still got an ounce of quality in it. I think the Premier League, I agree with Arsene Wenger. I think when someone's finishing on 11 points and the same 3 teams are going down and up for a while now, you've got to look at the quality of the league. But me, Mo and Sam have been arguing that for a while. They think it's quality. I don't think it's quality. I don't think it's shocking, but I certainly don't think it's anywhere near the level of what it used to be. And I think Europe's like that as well. So I think the question needs to be now, should Man United and Spurs deserve, if they win this final, because it could be Bodo Glimt or Atletico, you never know. No. But whoever wins it, should they be allowed to go into the Champions League? The answer is yes. And the answer is yes, because that's what the rules state. So really the question should be, should the rule need changing? Which is the back end of what Mo was just literally saying then now. So I think that is a serious question now. Now, I've never really looked at the Europa League teams and the Europa Conference League teams, without being too disrespectful, and gone, oh, wow, the quality in these competitions is just top level. All of them could compete in the Champions League. Now, they could all go into the Champions League. They wouldn't get in the anywhere near the new format. You might get 1 team or 2 teams that sneak through. So we're looking at the quality. Now, where people are losing their heads, I think, is the rival fans are going, oh, my God, Man United or Spurs are going to end up in that Champions League. I'm more pissed off that they're going to win a trophy. I don't really care that they qualify for the Champions League for it. I'd just be more peeved that they're actually going to do that, and my team might not, unless we win the Champions League, of course. So that's what's got my goat, is the fact that they could be lifted a European trophy before Arsenal could do, again, right? Unless you're Spurs, of course, who haven't done it for ages either. When I look at it, I don't know that they would at the moment, and you've got summer windows to come into it, maybe new managers as far as Tottenham are concerned. I think when you look at it, I think Tottenham and Manchester United this season would have struggled in the Champions League format, personally, from what we're seeing with our own eyes. And I appreciate that Man United have done some good things in the Europa League with the teams that they have beaten in that league stage. Doesn't matter who you get. Tottenham have literally gone right the way through to the final. We ain't really playing anybody, if I'm honest with you. And Frankfurt were a good side, but Marmoush, their best player's gone. It's like playing Liverpool with or without Salah, really. Do you know what I mean? So when you look at it, you think, wow, Tottenham, fair play, they deserve to get there because you can only beat in front of you. But is that the route you get now to get to the final? That's pretty simple, to be fair. And I'm not saying boo-hoo when Arsenal did it, because Arsenal should have won the Europa League. We played our kids in the majority of it. I don't know why we did that, because we ended up losing to Amorim's Sporting Lisbon, and we lost to Diego Simeone's Atletico Madrid, and we lost to Villarreal under Emery. So we had a hell of a harder kind of route to try and get to that final. Should have won it, though, because we were, in my opinion, better back then. So I think the question now is, does this remain, this rule? I don't really know that it should. However, there needs to be some form of, you've won it, so now this happens. And if it is, you go and qualify for the group stages or the playoffs to get into the Champions League, then so be it. Maybe that's what they do. You qualify to have a playoff round to get into the Champions League next year, if they still do them. I don't even know if they do them anymore. So that's where I'm kind of at. And I think we're looking at it completely different. And just lastly, the quality of the Premier League thing, I thought Arsene Wenger was spot on there. I've got to be honest. And I don't think that he is, he's only saying that because when he did it, it makes him look better when he was managing. All that crap will come out. I just think it's clear. I think everything.
Can I ask Dan a question before we go on and continue? I just want a straight answer from Dan, please. Watching Spurs and Man United this season, do you think they're worthy of a spot in the Champions League next season, regardless of Europa League?
No. However, if the rules state that they win the Europa League, then yeah, they are. because that's the
Fantastic.
rules.
The rules
I'm
are the
looking at
rules.
it through
Listen,
the
I
eye
can't
test.
argue the rules. I can't argue the rules, Dan. I can't argue the rules.
Can
The
I
rules
just-
of the
No, if I'm
handball. I
looking
can't
at the
argue
eye-
the
no,
rules.
no,
of
no,
the-
the eye test. Look at the eye test. No, of
Yeah.
course not. They're playing
So
terrible.
Half the teams
Yeah,
in the
can I-
Champions League don't deserve to be there.
Yeah,
then,
can I? Yeah,
just off
but
the
can
eye
I?
test.
Can I just understand something?
And that's a good point.
Is what do you mean by worthy, Mo? Like what? Who do you like? Literally right now, can you name me the 10 who are worthy of Champions League football and why? What makes you worthy?
No.
Of being
In the league,
No,
playing
no,
in the
no, no,
league,
no, no,
watching
no,
your
no.
games,
Specificity. What makes a team worthy to be in the Champions League, in your opinion?
performing very well in your league, performing well to get a higher place.
That's vague.
I literally answered, but the answer you don't like, so you're not going to take my answer for it.
No, it's not that I don't like the answer. That's vague. What do you mean by being worthy? Detail it for me. You obviously thought about it.
The teams that perform well against their competition in their league to get higher positions to go in the best competition in Europe.
Okay, so when you say perform well, does that equate to positions in the league?
Position and points, yes. Position, points, stuff like that.
So you're comfortable with top, like, so where's and again, I'm not even trying to challenge you. I'm looking for specificity. Where's your cutoff point? Because the reason I say that is some people think it's a disgrace that a team that can finish fifth and be 45 points off the top of the league champions, they think that, would you consider being 45 points off of the winners of the league and maybe on average 30 to 40 points off of all the champions going into next season's Champions League? Would you consider that worthy? Or where's the cutoff point?
It depends on the number of teams. If Champions League decide tomorrow that there are 70 teams in the Champions League and we're going to take 8 from Italy, 8 from Spain, 7 from France or whatever, that is the cutoff point. I don't have a cutoff point for it. When you perform against other teams and your position is right there, it is relevant to how strong the league is and how strong the teams around you are. That's it.
So there's
no. I have no cut on.
So
at some point, if there is I can answer your question very simple. If at some point the Champions League is 128 teams and they take 10 Premier League teams, that is the cutoff point. You have to be 10.
So you do have a cutoff point. But the reason I ask, you say you got no cutoff point. So would you say the team that are, say, 8th in Portugal, do you think they're better than Man United and Spurs?
No, they might not be.
So you must have a cutoff point then, because if the team 8th placed in well, we've beaten. This is the thing. We have knocked teams out and been better this season than teams that are 2nd and 3rd in their respective leagues. That's why I'm asking you what your cutoff point of worthy is, because for me, your logic dictates, because we've beaten teams that are going to finish 3rd in some of the big leagues in Europe, and we perform well against them. Your logic dictates you have to have it. There are teams that are in the top 4 in Germany, teams that are in the top 4 or 5 in France that you also think are not worthy for the Champions League.
No, but they can do that because they need to involve all the teams in Europe based on how strong your league is. So you go to the qualification and then you go to the group stage.
But they're still not. But based on the eye and how good they are, they're not worthy.
No, they are worthy because in Europe you need to involve all the teams. Otherwise, we go to the Super League.
Okay.
No, but Mo, what you're doing, like, and I agree with what you're saying on the eye that Man United and Spurs don't look like, wow, they get them in the Champions League. Look at them, their quality. But then there's other clubs that we can do as well with that.
Yeah.
From England, then, do you think Aston Villa is more worthy of a Champions League? In England, we're not going to talk about France because they need to involve all Europe because it's called Europe. It's called Champions League. Do you think Aston Villa is worthy of a Champions League spot or Man United?
The way that they're both playing, Aston Villa look like they do better in the Champions League.
But Aston Villa might not make the Champions League, and Man United might make the Champions League.
But that's the rule thing again, Mo. That's the rule thing
again. I agree with you, Dan. The rule might need to be. You need to look at this rule, and maybe you need to find a way to do it. Maybe you need to, same as the offside. They changed the handball. They changed a lot of the things.
I'm going to go to the super chats here because the audience have had a lot to say on this. Aya here says we are falling for the media narrative that trick us into engagement because this Europa League thing is contradicting the very same question everyone has been asking with regards to incentives to be part of the Europa League in the first place. And this is what's also very true and it's been ignored. So when the worthy question comes up, what gets my goat is for 15 years, football fans from across the world complained that teams didn't try hard enough to win the Europa League because there wasn't an incentive. The majority of football fans asked for this rule to be in place. Now that a team that they don't want to win it for numerous reasons, or one of 2 teams they don't want to win it for numerous reasons, now we've got to look at changing it again. I almost guarantee if next year a La Liga team is 15th in the league and they're winning it, I guarantee you Mo doesn't bring it up, and Mo won't be talking about their worthiness. And you can't, in terms of being worthy,
you can't guarantee anything. Like I might be talking about it, but because I did, like you can't guarantee.
But you can't. Again, at the end of the day, being worthy is this: there's a competition to win, and there's a prize at the end of it. If you win that competition, you qualify. Man United last year finished. This is why it's weird as well. Man United finished in the league 8th last year, won the FA Cup. Nobody said we weren't worthy of being in the Europa League, even though we didn't finish in an Europa League qualification position and were poor. I tell you 100%, if Spurs win the Europa League, no media will be speaking about if they are worthy. The media would praise Big Ange. I know this.
I disagree. I normally agree with your takes, but I disagree with that. I think they still will get. Well, they've been poor in the league. Ange is about to be sacked. Like, how on earth have they got? They'll still get their question marks.
Sevilla were 12th.
Yeah, but it's about Man United. Remember, it's all about the Man United.
Yeah. No, but
remember, KJ.
No, but I've stated that it's about Man United and Spurs. You know, so that take goes with what I believe.
Sevilla were 12th in La Liga when they won the Europa League in 2023. Should they have not have gotten champions? We know this for a fact. This just wasn't a debate. It wasn't trending anywhere. Maybe in Spain, if somebody can put out the receipts, I'll bow down to those facts. But this wasn't a debate. Nobody cared. In fact, they just laughed at the fact. Man United finished in the top 4 that season, I think. Did we finish top 4 that season? 2023.
Third, yeah.
Third. So we finished third. We finished third that season. Where was all the talk when Sevilla knocked us out of Sevilla ain't worthy of this? I don't remember that debate ever happening. I don't remember that debate ever happening.
I didn't know that in the football terrace we discussed Spanish football, but fine.
Well, we discussed European football, but we discussed European football and the qualities in it. We covered the Champions League and the Europa League, so that's not true. But you just know what the issue here is, and people don't. You admitted it in the end, Mo. So you did admit.
No, it is. You don't. I admitted it in the beginning. I admitted it in the beginning. We're not gonna move on because of the super chats and stuff.
It's not that for me. I'm not bothered that you think we don't deserve it. I'm bothered that you wouldn't just outright say Man United and Spurs have created this conversation, because that's the fact behind this. Sevilla were 12th in the league in 2023. Patrick, thank you. I think it's the same super chat. No, different super chat. The rule has been there for a decade. Saying it's wrong now is nonsense. It's shifting the goalposts unfairly.
But there are other rules, Patrick, that you want to change, like handball rules.
Because it affects everyone in football. It's not because 2 teams only get handball decisions.
But this can happen. But now it's not only 2 teams. It's not only 2 teams. It's Sevilla. It happened to Sevilla. Now it's Man United. Okay. It keeps happening, KJ.
Where I will agree with Mo is over the next few years, if the rule stays in place, if these same conversations happens again, then I will agree with Mo. This is a football issue and not specific to Tottenham and Man United. But it's about people like Mo keeping the energy. Because the people like me that think if you win it, you deserve to be there next year, we're not going to bring it up because we don't have an issue with it. I need to see Richard Keys, Wenger, Andy Gray, Carragher, Mo, Hussam, the entire Liverpool fan base, the entire Arsenal fan base. They need to keep the energy. If they don't, you're all wrong about this because you only care about it because it's 2 teams. Proof it will come in the future. It's because remember what the arguments are, where we are in the league and or the drop down. So we have to keep those things in check. It's our performance in Europe allowing our league to have 5 Champions Leagues next season. Hold that. It's very true, actually. Without Chelsea, Man United and Spurs' European campaigns, top 5 wouldn't be a place. And the team coming 5th are literally only getting a place, and you're saying they're worthy because of the teams you're saying are not worthy to be in Europe. It's very interesting dichotomy.
Yes, because Chelsea play Liga Warsaw and they win. That's why the Premier League should get one. But that's another law. That's another rule that needs to be changed. Go ahead.
Well, Premier League teams not allowed in the Conference League.
No. Because Chelsea are playing Liga Warsaw. The Premier League you cannot just say the points about the Champions League because Chelsea are playing Liga Warsaw in the Conference League. That's
I think. Do you not get more points for? I think you get more points for winning
Champions League. Yes.
Yeah. So it's Man United and Spurs between them have accumulated a lot more coefficient points than Chelsea.
Do you want my opinion again? Simple and clear. Only points in Champions League should actually be considered for Champions League spots. Only the teams from England or Italy that play in the Champions League should.
Yeah, that's cool.
That's fair.
You can get an extra place in the Conference League if Chelsea win the Conference League.
Yeah. In my opinion, winning a competition should only give you an auto include into that competition again next season.
That's fair, to be fair.
Not
That
a
is
bump
also
up.
a fair point.
It's always
Like
been
I'm
my
not
view.
saying it's like it should be that or it shouldn't be that, but I don't think that would be an outrageous thing. It's like, hang on, mate, where's my champ? Where's my champ
then
spot?
you can then say, why have promotion relegation then?
Yeah, but that's through a league, through a cup competition is obviously different.
But this is a 3-tiered competition.
Yeah. At the same time, Fonzie, this is the problem. It wasn't just an English thing. They did it because they wanted to where UEFA have messed up, and I go back to it again. But this is ironic because the reason why Europe was better in the 80s, 90s, and noughties is because only the champions were in the Champions League. The Cup Winners' Cup was the second biggest, and if you came second in your league and qualified for the UEFA Cup, but won your FA Cup, you always chose Cup Winners' Cup. And then there was the UEFA Cup. And the way that worked is you just had typically in most countries, the Cup winners are nearly always the teams that are in the top 2 or 3 league positions. And then that way you had all the quality across Europe spread out across 3 competitions, and they were all taken exceedingly seriously. UEFA messed up by putting everybody in the Champions League. It made a lot of people in a lot of countries, probably barring Spain, to be fair, they stopped taking the other competitions as serious. So then what they had to do is they added these incentives in to make teams and fans take those competitions more seriously. I'm all for the debate, Fonzie, of taking away the promotion to the next competition up. I'm just intrigued, and I want people to admit the reason why we're doing it. When United drop out the Champions League next year, they will not drop into the Europa League and therefore cannot win it. If they do not qualify for the Europa League in the league next season, equals no European football. This is very, very true. This is very, very true. So it puts United in a more vulnerable position. I agree. This would only happen to 2 clubs, Man United and Arsenal, is what Ola says here.
And Spurs. Because
Do you know what's really funny, though, as well? A lot of people pushing this narrative, right, will be the same trolls if Man United win it, will go, and this is the argument about Worthy, will go, had a better season than Arsenal. Well, if we've had a better season than Arsenal, how can Arsenal be more worthy of a Champions League position than us? It's just trolling. It's got to be. Afternoon. The problem is England could have 6 teams in the Champions League. The rest of Europe hates English teams. Be honest, Dinesh, this isn't Europe ain't pushing this. I guarantee you, no one in Europe is talking about it. They're saying, "Well done for winning a competition and a trophy." It's England. It's England.
They'll be more annoyed that they lost their teams lost to the 15th and the 16th team from England. They'll be annoyed at their teams for losing.
I think that is true. That is true. It is a bit like, wow, get yourself into the top half of the league and you might get Europe. That's a bit like, wow, really? Is it that hard to get into Europe now? Not really. You just put them all in Europe. You know what I mean? Like 3 bloody European competitions. It's mad. Like, let's be real, it is. But let me ask you 2 quick questions. I know you're doing super chat still. Very, very quickly.
Yes, of course, mate, of course.
You're both Man United. Would you rather win the Europa League and be in the Champions League next season, or lose? Actually, no, I can't answer that because you won't be in the Europa League. Forget that. I was trying to look at your kind of.
But do you mean it from the point of view of we've got more chance of winning the Europa League next year than we have a Champions League?
Next year,
for me, I've always, the conversation about football heritage wins you games. Where I believe there's truth to that is when I think fans can look at Arsenal fans on Tuesday when you consider that goal, the way that atmosphere went. Showed me a group of fans have been so long out of those positions. It was like you didn't quite know how to handle that situation. So I think that being in the Champions League, when people speak about being worthy or ready for it, I think you need to build. I think you need to build experience in a competition. And we saw that with City. The first 3 or 4 seasons, they went out in the group stages. Then they started going out early knockouts. Then they got to a semi. Then they went back a little bit again. Then they started getting to finals. Then they eventually won it. I don't believe they could have won that Champions League if up until they were ready to win it, they didn't play in the competition. So I would rather be in it. You've also got the money side. And I understand what Arsenal fans used to say about top 4. There's no point because we don't ever spend enough of that Champions League money to try and win it. Fair. But I don't think Man United are that club. I think we will spend the money to try and improve the squad to try and get to a point in a few years' time to win it. So I would rather be in it, trying to win it and failing and growing as a club than not be in it at all personally. So I feel it's like with Forest and these teams. I get why they would celebrate Champions League football, because their owners are going to throw the kitchen sink at trying to use that money to improve the club. And I think Ineos will do the same with us, to be fair. But I do get the point as well. Winning trophies is great, but I agree with a lot of the Arsenal fans this last week. I know that you guys don't want to see Man United lift the trophy, or Spurs especially.
I'd rather Man United, though. I'd rather Man United.
I get that I get that. At the same time, I do see the logic in some of the arguments where they've said, because I think you'd have won the Europa League if you were in it this year. I think you'd win it at a canter. I really do think you would win it at a canter based on how good you've been in the Champions League. If you brought that form across, because the teams no, I'm not going to lie. There's no one in the Champions League that's anywhere near as good as any of these semi-finalists. Probably not as good as anyone that's in the quarterfinals, if we're being honest with you. So the idea of is getting to a semi of the Champions League better than being in this year's final of the Europa League? I see the argument for yes, even though there's not a trophy for being in the semi-finals, because you're competing at a higher level. And my dad, who's a Spurs fan, said this to me, Potsy. He said, if my business is aiming to turn over 100 grand this month and we fall short and hit 80 grand, and the business next door that does the same thing is trying to hit a target of 10 grand and brings in 15, yes, they've gone 100 and whatever, 150% over target, but have they had a better month than me? And I was like, for me, that makes a lot of sense. And I think that you have to apply that context to it. And doesn't mean I won't celebrate winning it and won't be happy with it. At the same time, I would still rather be in a position where my team could be winning the Champions League this year than a guarantee of a Europa League final at this. If I could swap right now, I'd still rather be in your position this season than Man United's, because there's a chance you could win a bigger trophy. And I would gamble. And we ain't guaranteed the Europa League, by the way, because Spurs have beaten us 3 times this year. I would still rather gamble and go for that Champions League for me personally. Don't a lot of the traditional top 6 teams look down on only qualifying for the Europa League and get mocked for it? But now United or Spurs are on the verge of winning it. People seem to be outraged by it.
Yeah, true.
Absolutely true. It's Mickey Mouse Cup. No one cares about it. I told you, I said this the other day, and rivals hate it. This potential all-English Europa League final, for good or bad reasons, I don't really care, is going to have more eyes and more debate about it than the Champions League final. If Arsenal don't make that Champions League final, it will be discussed more on social media. It will get, in England, it will get higher viewing figures. There's something about it that is just going to attract so much attention. It's unbelievable. A lot of it might be negative, like these conversations, but it's going to be massive. It's going to be massive.
Also, a part of it is because we are 16th and 15th. If we
were
both 8th and 7th, no one cares as much as they are now.
It's the combination of it all. Absolutely is.